Big Rob Havenstein calls it a career. Damn, he's a Rams legend in my eyes. And Kingsbury Hunter joined the Rams coaching staff. Rams officially playing the Niners in Australia. And are the Rams young star players a little bit immature? God, I hope not. But me and Mark, we'll talk about all that next on this update episode here on the Rams Up Podcast Network. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Rams Up Podcast Network. I'm Ian. That's Mark. And if you're on YouTube, thanks for tuning in here. Like our videos if you haven't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the future video throughout the offseason, free agency frenzy, draft, new uniforms, the whole shebang. Man, if you're on the audio only, podcast only side of things as well, thank you for tuning in there. Share it. Share it all, everyone. It helps other Rams fans see our content, and me and Mark, we very much appreciate it. But Mark, have you decompressed a little bit since the bowl? I mean, that game sucked.
Yeah, it really did. And to be honest with you, I was only half watching. I just got this vibe early on in the game. It's like, I know how this is going to go. Yeah. And it made it, on the one hand, it made it a little more painful because we should have been in that game, and we're one of the top two teams in the National Football League without question. I think everybody recognizes that now, but what could have been, what could have been.
It was expected that the Patriots would get shellacked. But, got to turn the page, even though it sickens me that we weren't in that game. But I do got to say, though, Mark, as we look ahead now to the 2026 season, which is crazy, by the way. It just, boom, the switch turns on, right? Seahawks had their parade and yada, yada, yada. But it's like, hey, everyone, woohoo! Super Bowl in LA, in case you didn't know. And Mark, that logo, by the way, is probably the best looking logo since the early 2000s/90s, 80s, and back. Because, back in the day, it was very colorful. They really had tons of the Roman numerals. They weren't implementing the Lombardi trophy in the middle. But it feels like since they've been implementing that Lombardi in the middle of it, it hasn't been good. Like this last year's logo was kind of whack. Same in years past. I dig the wave in the background, man. It has that very Japanese, I don't know, that famous picture that gets referenced every so often in movies and film and et cetera, where it's that kind of tsunami wave. Kind of has that feel. I like it.
Well, full disclosure here, it's the first time I'm seeing it. I haven't even seen it until just nice. Now. And it looks very cool, very LA-ish, very SoCal-ish. Looks nice.
So, yep, everyone, the quest for the third Super Bowl in Rams history begins now as the Super Bowl 60 concludes, 61 with eyes of repeating a world championship in your own stadium. That'd be insane. And Rams have a great chance, I think, Mark. So there you go, everyone. That's not fake. That logo is real. And that will be the official fun artwork that'll be, on shirts, on the jerseys of players that'll be promoted all throughout the season, I'm sure. But that's a nice one. The best in a long time, in my opinion. And Rams, get the damn job done and play in that game and win it, please. But
yeah, I mean, last two seasons, if you just kind of opening another wound here, taking the Band-Aid off once again, but Rams could make an argument that they could have won the last two Super Bowls with a couple breaks.
I mean, gosh dang it, Mark, I know.
I'm sorry.
No, I know, but
let's move on.
It's the truth. And look, real quick to everyone that has the opinion of that the Patriots would have gotten their ass kicked by the Rams. I think the Rams would have won that game, but do I think with a convincing thoughts that the Rams would have done what Seattle did to them? I'm not too sure because the Rams defense hadn't been playing well for months. So I think the game would have been closer than what the Seattle Patriots game was. But I believe the Rams would have won. They would have beat New England. I don't think that's much of a debate. But I think I see a lot of Rams fans, Mark, that say, hey, that game would have been an ass kicking if we were playing. I don't know, man, based on the defense. But, oh, well, I mean, that's over, I guess, right?
Yeah, my take on that is that the Rams have a way of making games the 2025 Rams had a way of making games entertaining and interesting. So I'm thinking that game would have been something like 30-24. The Patriots would have put some points up on us, and we would have drove up and down the field a few times, and it would have been a high scoring, highly entertaining game, in my opinion.
It feels like that would have been the case. So, oh, well, we live in this timeline. An alternate timeline would have been enjoying Super Bowl 60, everyone. But hey, the ultimate team game. You got 35, 40 different guys playing every game, and especially in these playoff games. It takes all 35, 40 guys, coaching staff, everyone getting together and implementing a game plan that leads to a win. And Rams didn't deserve it. It's that simple. But we look on to the LA Super Bowl 61. But with that said, I mean, a big pillar of the organization, Mark, calls it a career. And I think you and I are not shocked based on discussions we've had throughout this season with Warren McClendon playing well. But we'll save that for another day, another episode. We got to honor Big Rob Havenstein here, everyone, as thank you, Rob, the Rams put out. As Rob Havenstein, guys, a Ram his entire career. He retires after 11 years. And damn, Mark, 11 years went by fast. I mean, the dude, second round pick in 2015, right? It was Todd Gurley in round one and then Rob Havenstein later. A pretty dang good 1-2 selections right there by Les Snead and that Fisher era. I mean, Mark, you had 148 career starts, the seventh most in Rams franchise history, third among all O linemen, by the way. Incredible. Over 100 or over 9,900 career snaps, career plays he's out there on the field. And look, four-time captain, Super Bowl champion when we won it here in SoFi, here in LA, Super Bowl 56, where he beat the Bengals. And no Pro Bowls, nothing else. But in my opinion, you can call me biased here, I mean, one of the best right tackles of this last 10 years. Think about it. Tim, Lane Johnson, and what other right tackles were consistently good for that long? I can't think of anybody else, really, Mark.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why he didn't get the recognition that he deserved. I mean, he was just a mellow, quiet, great player. I remember seeing him when I went to Irvine to see Andrew Whitworth and him after practice, working on technique together, working on a couple of the other younger linemen. Just that quiet leadership that he provided for this team is going to be missed. But yeah, he's a great one for sure.
It just to the point of the Pro Bowl. I mean, I think we found out now in recent years, everyone, just how much of a sham that is. The voting process for that, the voting process for the Hall of Fame. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm getting myself riled up, I guess. It's like, how did he never get a Pro Bowl? Stupid. But
yeah, he's just on the wrong team. He's on an LA team, West Coast team.
Crazy. It's just irritating. But I mean, everyone with Big Rob Havenstein, I mean, the guy is a Rams legend, in my opinion, for all that. I mean, think about it, Mark, top of your head, the best old linemen. A lot of them are left tackles, right? You think of Orlando Pace, you think of Whitworth, even though he wasn't here majority of his career, but he is a Rams legend. He was awesome. I think of Rob Havenstein, and there's probably others I'm just blanking off the top of my head right now. But I think Rams fans, it ended poorly with him getting hurt in the Week 11 Seattle game. And, of course, most players' careers come to a screeching halt with injuries or benchings or whatever. And you could say, hey, Rob's career ended in those terms, right? But let's not forget all the great years of play. Let's not forget about the consistency, the leadership. Remember during the 2022 season, he was so fired up. He was one of the only O-linemen who didn't get hurt that year, and how much responsibility he felt to get the new guys that were shuffling in every week to get them to be at least NFL quality. I mean, to power through those times, the dark times of St. Louis, the Fisher era, to be a part of the LA Rams 2.0 resurgence, revolution, whatever you want to call it, he needs to be remembered fondly. And anyone who may forget about Rob Havenstein, don't. Rams legend for all those reasons, right, Mark? I think that's fair.
Yeah, I agree. He goes down on a long list of great offensive linemen for this franchise, and there have been a bunch of them. I mean, and you're right, a lot of left tackles, and there's guys like Doug France and Dennis Hara and Irv Pankey. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember. Yeah. I don't even remember where those guys played. One of them probably
Cohen.
played.
I'm thinking of guys too. Cohen,
Charlie Cowan, yeah.
Cowan, yeah, you're right.
Joe Schiavelli, I think he was a guard. Tom Mack was a guard, yeah. Just the list goes on, and Havenstein is in the mix there of great Rams offensive linemen.
Yeah, so I mean, final thoughts from the head coach on Big Rob. As Sean McVay says, hey, his toughness, his competitive greatness, and ability to pour into his teammates separated him as an elite leader. And Sean also says, hey, Rob has helped me grow and evolve in my 9 seasons as the Rams head coach. And I'm so grateful for the experiences we've shared together. And right, I mean, he was here the whole time, right? McVay came in 2017. Robert already had a couple years of experience by then. Kind of crazy to think about. Sean just grew up with these guys too. And Les Snead says he's been instrumental in our organization's success, and his leadership will leave a lasting mark on many of us. He has shown us the ideal blueprint of what a Ram is and is up to, or I read that wrong, apologies. He has shown us the ideal blueprint of what a Ram is, and it's up to us to be disciplined to continue the tradition he helped establish. And he's been a shining example of what it means to be a Ram, Les Snead says. I botched that quote a little bit. Sorry, everyone. So, hey, man, Rams leadership. I'm sure Kevin, Kroenke, maybe they'll have something to say later. But, damn, kind of crappy to see him go. I wish we would have gotten another championship for him, Mark.
Yeah, and I had maybe a thought that he'd come back for one more, but
yeah,
hey, these guys, some of these guys play longer than they should. I'm not saying that Rob did, but man, you go enjoy life. I think he's got a couple little girls, a beautiful family, made a lot of money. Go enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think the signs were there. Not to end on a sour note, dealing with the double shoulder scoping right leading into the season, and then he got banged up, and according to him in the end of season end of season press conferences at the locker rooms with reporters, he said that his body just was not healing, and that was a sign to me that it's going to be a 50-50 chance if he comes back. But I think better that than to try to give it a go and him be fully disappointed with a season where he couldn't be healthy. Because look at the last time we seen him out there, Week 11 against the Seahawks, had some rough moments, but he finished his last game playing with a win. And I think that's a great way to go out if it's not going to be a playoff game loss, a Super Bowl championship win. You know what I'm saying, Mark? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. He closed out his career in a nice way. He got a Super Bowl ring. Played in 2 Super Bowls, right?
Yeah.
So had a nice career, and now he can ride off into the sunset and start spending some of his cash however he wants. Travel the world with his family, enjoy life, and maybe he's got coaching in his future. Seems like he'd be a good candidate for coaching if he has any interest in that.
Yeah, just like Whitworth, just like Brian Allen being on the coaching staff, feels like he'll be either one of those roles in the future. I think Sean McVay and others would welcome him to come in anytime he wants, just like a lot of former Rams players in this McVay era come back talk, or even other greats too. So hope Rob does that. And again, thank you, Rob, for everything you've done. And damn, to find another right tackle to play 10 plus years again, that's going to be a challenge. And hopefully Warren McClendon, who filled in, will be that next guy up. And thank God he did play well, or this would have been a disastrous end of the season probably, right? But as we move on, everyone, Rams hire 2 new coaches, one familiar and one I had no idea who he was, truthfully. Rams hire Kliff Kingsbury and Michael Hunter to the coaching staff. And we'll start with Kingsbury here, Mark, as when I heard the news, I thought Oh, damn. That's our new offensive coordinator. But to all the insiders' reports and et cetera, that is not the case as of right now. They just said he's hired to the coaching staff. Now, with Shieldhouse not getting a head coaching gig, let me ask you this too, though, Mark, with Sean's history of always hiring OCs outside of the Rams organization, right? Remember the years where everyone thought Thomas Brown, the former running back, tight ends coach who kind of flip-flop, assistant head coach, would get elevated, and all those years he didn't? It wouldn't shock me if it comes out later that Kingsbury is the OC, did a good job with Jaden Daniels, did a good job, I think, in my opinion, with the Commanders' issues of this last season. And hey, got Kyler Murray and them playing good football when he got the Arizona Cardinals, to a playoff game the first time in 10 plus years there. So, to your thoughts, do you think he's going to be the OC, or is this another role that'll be revealed later? What do you think on that, dude?
Well, if he's not the offensive coordinator, then he's going to have some kind of Mickey Mouse title. That's probably the wrong way of putting it. Some kind of title that hides the fact that he's not the offensive coordinator, but special assistant to the head coach or something like that. And he's going to have a big input. When the Chargers hired Mike McDaniel, I was like, dang it, that would have been great to have him come over.
Me too. I was like, dang it. Yeah.
Yeah. But then when I saw they were getting Kingsbury, I was like, that's in that same stratosphere as Mike McDaniel, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was really excited about it. And, if he ends up being the offensive coordinator, special assistant, if Shieldhouse is the offensive coordinator, they'll figure it out. I think McVay is probably trying to sort that out, when he's got an in-house guy that has been doing a great job, and then he brings in someone from the outside, one of his buddies. Was he his best man at the wedding? Or was he just, I know he's a very close friend.
I know they are pretty tight, Mark, right?
Yeah, right.
Fact.
So that's an interesting dynamic, regardless that McVay's going to have to, wiggle his way through and just make sure. And it's one of those things, when you're the boss, keeping guys happy, whether it just be title, pay, assignments. But if anyone can figure it out, Sean can. But bottom line is, our offensive brain trust is much improved, I think.
Yeah, look, at Kingsbury's background is from the spread college revolution with Mike Leach. He comes from that, I guess you could say, family tree of offense, just like McVay's from the Shanahan, tree of offense. Kingsbury's from the Mike Leach air raid offense, and spread it out. Obviously still run the ball, but a lot more of those traditional collegiate spread plays that have worked their way into the NFL a ton since he was with Arizona, where that was a little more fresh. Now every team has a lot of spread collegiate style plays in their playbook. And I think that being added into the offense is beneficial. Now, to the point of me, you, and other Rams fans were, pissy with Sean throughout the season of, hey, the run game is averaging 5+ yards per carry. Let's keep running it. Does Kingsbury joining that help that cause? I don't know. But look, it was time with Washington, his time with Arizona. He did run the football. He did have run games out of the shotgun that were, strong. Think of Jaden Daniels. Think of even this last year. I mean, I do think he utilizes a lot more gap run plays out of shotgun, out of the spread, that Sean doesn't at all. So I think that's beneficial. Just how Mike LaFleur brought in a lot of the gap scheme stuff that he learned from Kyle and the Niners. I think Kingsbury implementing a lot more counters, traps, GT counters out of shotgun. I think that's beneficial, since Matthew and them like to be out of shotgun anyway. And I think Kyron and Blake could do those. And I think that's beneficial as well for the run game stuff, Mark. So we'll see. Again, Sean always hires offensive coordinators who are away from the Rams building previously. They usually aren't guys getting elevated within the building, a la Thomas Brown, who interviewed for tons of head coaching gigs when he was here with us. Never got one. And obviously he's joined other staffs and I think he's with Carolina right now, if my memory serves me correct. So we'll see. I know everyone's saying Nate Shieldhouse, but who knows? I'll believe it when I see it, truthfully. And I wouldn't hate that Kingsbury would be the OC. I think that would be a good move. And I guess I'll end on that, Mark, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. The Rams need to, the one thing you got to keep in mind is you got to keep improving. You got to keep uh, evolving as an offense. No matter, Rams have the best offense in the National Football League, but they can't, just maintain status quo. They got to change it up. They got to evolve and tweak it every year. And I think that's Kingsbury's the perfect guy for it.
Yeah. So we'll see. And then, of course, if things go well, not only would he probably get another head coaching opportunity, so would Shieldhouse again anyway. So that's another two coaches that'll probably bail on us for for a superior job next year. Jeez, the effing wheeze, man. So we'll see whether it's Shieldhouse, Kingsbury, whether their roles are flipped, whether both of them don't become OC. Feels like both of them will get hired and leave our organization for head coaching gigs in a year from now. It's insane, Mark. It's insane. But another coaching staff hire, everyone. Michael Hunter comes from the collegiate ranks, and he joins the Rams to be their new secondary coach or corner coach, defensive backs coach, tomato, and all that, everyone. He was with the Ohio State Buckeyes for the last 2 years. He signed on to join the Tennessee or University of Tennessee Volunteers, the team that's orange and white, everyone. And Sean must have offered him, give him a call. So he bailed on that gig before things really start kicking off. And he came to coach with us. So this is interesting, Mark. We all know, and it's been reported tons, that Aubrey Pleasant, our current defensive backs coach, our current pass game coordinator, our current assistant head coach, has been getting tons of interviews for defensive coordinator jobs throughout the league. Arizona with Mike LaFleur, no shock there. Cleveland Browns, since they're retooling everything there. And I think there's a couple other spots that I may be blanking on. But I think with this hire, though, Mark, I think that points to Aubrey Pleasant is going to move on to a different team. If I had to bet, it's going to be those Arizona Cardinals, of course. But your thoughts on that being the reason why he's being hired? And then what you think, with the little knowledge I know you and I both have on him as of the moment, what he could possibly bring based on his Ohio State days, where he won a national championship coaching Caleb Downs and these other first-round picks that are probably going to keep coming out of Ohio State in that secondary, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this all out. It's there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
And he must be really respected. It played very little at the NFL level. I looked it up. I think he got into 6 NFL games. He was undrafted, played it after playing at Indiana and Oklahoma, had stints with the Giants, Jets, Broncos, Bills, Texans, and Chiefs, but mostly on practice squads and such.
Yeah.
So, but he must know that he must know what he's doing, man, to go from Ohio State to Tennessee and then on to the Rams basically on a weekend. So, I don't know. I'm more interested in, if they bring on a defensive back coach with the understanding or the expectation that they're going to lose their DC. Does that seem a little backwards that they would want to fill that position, the DC position first? Are they going to promote from within? I don't know. I don't quite get it just yet. It'll be interesting to watch. Is Jim Schwartz still out there? Is that his name?
Yeah, geez Louise. I mean, that would have been great. But again, I feel like, Mark, and tell me again if you agree or disagree. It feels like Aubrey Pleasant's leaving as he is the main DB coach. And obviously he had other responsibilities with the Rams. And I think that is what's going to end up being the case. You still have others that are a part of the Rams secondary coaching staff. I think Chris Beek, another assistant I'm blanking on at the moment. If I got those names wrong, apologies on that. But it feels like Aubrey's going to join the Arizona Cardinals, right? Mike LaFleur needs an assistant. I'm sure he's all on board with the 3-4 Rams Fangio-esque scheme that we run, that a lot of the league runs now. So it seems like he's going to be gone, Aubrey Pleasant, which makes sense to why he's getting hired. And does he have info on Caleb Downs? I'm sure he does. I'm sure he'll be
Yeah.
punching the table for Rams to somehow get him. And that would
Yeah.
be, I guess, I got to watch Downs' film, everyone, but we see enough highlights that we know he's a baller.
Yeah.
That's interesting, right? Spent a little bit of time at Tennessee. How about those two corners that everyone is freaking out about too for the Rams to potentially get? Obviously, he hasn't coached them, did not coach them, but maybe he's got some info on them after spending some time with Tennessee. Not very much. So it's just very interesting, the collegiate ties that could benefit the Rams with this. But does this also, to Kingsbury hire, right, what he can bring to the table? Ohio State, where Patricia was running the defense, a lot more man-to-man coverage. They obviously did zone, but it is heavier on blitz, disguising, having to play man-to-man, traditional blitz man-to-man. Does that mean the Rams are going to start maybe implementing that? Because think about it. You're not going to bring in a coach who doesn't necessarily fit what you want to do. So I'm interested to see if Michael Hunter being added in indicates that, hey, we got to find some corners that could play more man-to-man, because like you and I talked about, Mark, Rams played very little man-to-man coverage, and I think that's a big reason why they didn't blitz a ton. They didn't trust the corners to do it, and it's a big reason why I think they're not playing in this past Super Bowl and winning it, because this team couldn't play man-to-man. They couldn't blitz. They couldn't trust the corners in those situations. So we'll see if Hunter's philosophy that with Ohio State doing those things more gets brought into the Rams, which is my hope, please.
Yeah, and I apologize. I got wrapped around the axle there. I probably sounded like I already had Chris Shula fired there, bringing in a new DC, but I meant Audrey.
I know what you mean. I know what you meant.
Aubrey Plessett moving on.
Yeah.
Would they bring in someone to fill his spot before bringing on a DB? Although I'd take Schwartz over Shula at this point, but that's for another day as well.
Absolutely. What are we even talking about?
Yeah, but yeah, Caleb Downs is he's the one guy. There's probably three guys in this draft that seemed like people already have penciled in for future Pro Bowls. So he is apparently that good. I just think they'd have to trade up to get him. So we'll see what happens. But maybe Hunter will have some insight onto whether, maybe pound the table for trading up, making that trade up like you might be suggesting there. But yeah, I still think it's odd that they would hire Hunter before Pleasant moved on officially, but maybe that was Shula's call.
Yeah, and we'll see. And we got to be honest too. Aubrey Pleasant coached some good DB rooms that had experience, right? Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, but they were independently good players in general. 2017, when he first got brought on, Aubrey Pleasant, where he coached Kayvon Webster and Tremaine Johnson, they were good enough for a playoff team, but the Rams bailed on them both, right, for Aqib and Marcus the next year. Then not too long after, they make the trade for Jalen Ramsey, who had a Hall of Fame season in 2020, locking guys up with prime Darius Williams, who was also killing it, and then goes to the Lions. It goes terrible. They fire him, right, mid-season after year two, has a year with Green Bay, then comes back to us, and our DB play has slowly fallen off every year since. So, shout out to Aubrey. He's done good things, coached the preseason games, right? Been the head coach, though. A lot of players love him. But it seems like, the DB play, when they didn't have Hall of Fame-esque players, right? Jalen, prime Aqib Talib was that type of guy. Prime Marcus Peters was a game-changing player. Prime Darius Williams was a game-changing player. It feels like when those guys didn't exist, that the coaching job by Aubrey Pleasant was solid, but it didn't elevate enough. So I think maybe that bringing in Hunter, I think this is good change in general for the DB room that had a tough end of the year, Mark.
Yeah, and I wish there was a rule. My special assistant actually suggested this, that when you get hired away as in LaFleur to the Cardinals, he's not allowed to poach assistant coaches from his former team. That kind of sucks, actually.
It does, but I think the only way that it could happen is if the job title is an elevation from what you previously. So, like Aubrey being the D coordinator, he could get poached because it's an elevation. It can't be.
Oh, there is a rule against a 1-to-1.
It
Okay.
is a one. There is the 1-to-1 where it's like if Aubrey's getting brought on to just be the DB coach or assistant head coach or just pass game coordinator, same thing as the Rams. He can't be brought over. There has to be some massive elevation and responsibility, and it seems like Aubrey Pleasant's going to depart for that. Who knows? Could be getting fired, which would shock me, but we'll see what happens. But Hunter's in, and we'll find out what his role will be officially, I'm sure, sometime soon. But there you go, everyone. 2 new coaches. I'm sure we'll find out who the new OC is shortly, whether it is Kingsbury, Shieldhouse, and we'll see what responsibilities Michael Hunter will have with that DB room. But hopefully, some more man-to-man. Please help us win the Super Bowl, Mr. Hunter and Kingsbury. But with that said, everyone, in case anyone forgot with all the craziness going on in Rams universe, football universe, Rams and 49ers in Australia this season, which is, I mean, damn, Mark. Why is this game being played out there in Australia? That was my first thought. Cool that we're going to be out there. Remember, originally it was like Rams, Eagles for a little while.
Right.
But damn, a divisional game of this importance. And your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the Rams are one of 2 teams I think that have been awarded, if that's the term, marketing rights in Australia. So it makes sense. Yeah, the opponent, it's really ideal for the Rams, though, right? Get this 49er crowd out of our stadium for 1 year.
I get it.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. And I just hope when they come back, how would they work that? Would they hopefully have a West Coast game on week 2? I'm sure they will. But this is an opportunity, to stretch your legs, stretch your influence in Australia, win some new fans, and I thought that it might. Well, in Brazil they did a pretty good matchup. It was the Eagles Packers 1 year, which is
this last year, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 teams with a pretty big following. I think the Chiefs and Chargers.
You're right.
Chiefs and Chargers, a divisional game, so it kind of maps to that. And I think this will be a game. If you want to put an NFL game in Australia, these are an iconic team like the 49ers and one of the most successful teams of the last 10 years in the Rams. That's really been building a following as well. So has the makings of a really interesting matchup for sure, and an important one.
Super important. I mean, these Rams-Niner games decide seeding every year, it seems like, in the McVay Shanahan era since 2017. So, I mean, damn it. And of course, the rumor is that this game will be week 1, which I think makes a lot of sense in my eyes. And I know we talked about it before we jumped on here with everyone else. Have it week 1, maybe play in that Friday slot. I think that the Chiefs Chargers played last year. I think that was a Friday game, just like the Brazil Eagles game the year before. I think that was a Friday game too. Makes sense. I mean, Mark, the time difference between here and LA is 19 hours. So they're 19 hours ahead out there in Melbourne, Australia. So is the game officially on Saturday out there, and then it's Friday night here, or however that's going to go? I mean, that's going to be wild to see how those things get figured out. But I think having it week 1 on that Friday, Saturday slot, whatever works, where there's enough time to prep, it's the opening game where it's not going to be jumped or juggled in, I should say, between other games throughout the year, right? The weather will be good there in Australia, I assume. I don't know how hot it gets in September. I'm sure it probably does get hot. And I think that makes sense for it to be week 1, right, Mark?
Yeah, that gives them time, to get acclimated. They can go out there several days before if necessary, and then they can come back week 2 game on Sunday afternoon, I would hope. I was looking at the schedule. Either they give I don't know if I want to open up with 2 home games, but maybe week 2 come back and play at Arizona or at Vegas. That would be ideal, I think.
I'm sure Rams and the Kroenke family and Rams leadership will put in requests, which the NFL schedule makers do take into account when there is these. Like Rams said, hey, after the London game, we want to buy. Rams got that. The NFL schedule makers awarded them that, right? That was a known thing. They wanted that game to the London game against the Jags to be after they're already on the East Coast, so it's an easier travel, right? They played Baltimore, they stood out there, and then they went over. So we'll see what the schedule makers do for these. What do you want to say, Mark? These favors, right, that the Rams want.
Right.
So I'm sure there'll be some type of week 2 matchup that'll make sense where there's not going to be, oh, hey, come back. Now you're on the East Coast again. Oh, I don't know. Well, hopefully that's the case. But Mark, here's some fun stats for you on this. There's been 62 NFL games that have been played internationally since 2005. So that's been Mexico, Brazil, England, Melbourne, and 62 since 05. Rams and Niners this year will be the 12th international game between two teams from the same division. So it's happened 12 different times, right? We've had Rams Cardinals in London. I think Rams, who else have we played? I think Rams Cardinals a couple times in London, actually, in England. And then there's been Niners and Seahawks, I believe, one time in Mexico. I think Seahawks and I take that back. Cardinals, 49ers in Mexico once as well. So there's been some division games. Obviously, Jacksonville is probably the primary team out there, but pretty interesting. This will be the 12th matchup between two teams from the same division. And damn it. I wish this important ass game wasn't going to be on the other side of the planet, but I guess to your point, all right, the 49er fans that are all here in LA, that's a home game they'll be missing out on, which, I guess is a benefit for our fan base, I guess.
Right. So you'd rather this game was not in Australia? You think it's?
I just think this game is just such such importance for playoff seeding, especially with our team with another Super Bowl or bust season, and the Niners, being healthy as they could possibly be week 1, and we'll see where this game falls. And I don't know. We're going to enjoy it. You and I will talk about it tons leading up to this game, whenever it is in this upcoming season. But pretty crazy that that's what the NFL decided on, and so be it.
Yeah. And I think McVay has a pretty track record traveling internationally. So I'm not even sure if the 49ers have traveled internationally as much, probably not as much as the Rams. So might be a slight edge there for us.
Yeah, we'll see, man. And again, rumor is week 1. That's not concrete. That hasn't been decided. Schedule comes out in another handful of months. We'll know then, of course. But that makes a lot of sense. And I think for all the craziness of travel, I think that'd be a fun Friday, Saturday game that we all could look forward to. And, Rams, Niners on the other side of the planet, that's primetime football right there. And the Australians will be getting a treat. And, I don't have enough money to travel out there, Rams Nation. So if you got the cash, go support.
Maybe Scott Richmond will make the trip for us from Thailand to Australia.
That'll be an easier trip than us coming from Southern California, Mark. My God, what type of flight is that? Jeez Louise. 6-hour flights are a drag. Can't imagine double that plus some. My God. That's crazy. But there you go, everyone. Rams versus 49ers in Australia of this upcoming 2026 season. That should be a wild, fun game whenever that happens. But all right, Mark. This isn't fun to talk about, but it has to be discussed. I think this has been something of concern for a lot of Rams fans and a little bit of me as well, a little bit of you as well. So I think it's fair to discuss it. I mean, the Rams young players, are they having some maturity concerns? And we'll start with Jared Verse here, where he's not doing anything off the field. We're not seeing him be a dumbass outside of football. But with Jared, everyone, he appeared on a podcast, and I'm blanking on the name for whatever reason right now, with Ryan Clark. And he was on there talking about his football journey, talking about the Seahawks loss, talking about how he thought things were in the bag, that they were tough shit, basically, how they lacked the mental, I guess, toughness when Seattle was scoring on them, that they kind of just, what did he say? Like gave up, basically, or they mentally broke down. I mean, what are we talking about here? I think it's super, super embarrassing that that's a thing, man. And I appreciate the realness from him, Mark. I appreciate any player just being honest because, of course, everyone always has the coaches speak, the players speak. I get it. But at the same time, are we really shocked that that was the case? I'm not, based on how this defense played for about 2 months, Mark, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this. Number one, I'm not sure I completely believe him, at least to the magnitude he seems to be presenting it. And number two, there's just no value to sharing those thoughts on in an
Yeah.
interview. It's just, I'm sure his teammates probably wanted to strangle him. There's just no value to it. I mean, you go on these interviews, sometimes we complain about these interviews, and Sean McVay is famous for it, where it's like, he didn't really tell us anything.
No.
And there's a reason, because you just start flapping your mouth and stupid things come out of it, especially when you're young. I can tell you many cases where I was guilty of that. So yeah, I think I don't know who handles this on the Rams side. I know they coach these guys up on how to handle interviews and such, but they need to take some of these guys aside and give them some training on dealing with the media, what to say, what not to say, and how to steer conversations, those types of things. Didn't do anyone any good, sharing that.
I mean, look at it. I mean, he's talking about here, like, oh, things that weren't going our way. They're not laying down. What? This is the NFC Championship, my friend. Like, what are we talking about? This team is not going to lay down. And then he says, oh, when things aren't going well and starting to shit the bed and all that, they're not shitting the bed. Like, big things start happening, and they just started to mentally break down. They started to kind of like mentally quit. And Jared says, hey, it's my fault. La 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 la. And you can watch that interview of the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark. I'm not going to sum up every single sentence he said. But again, that mentality they had before the game, that they thought it would be some cakewalk, when things weren't going well in that game, I mean, it's no wonder that defense got embarrassed by Sam Darnold and cost this team a Super Bowl appearance, right? I think that's fair to say. That side of the ball played awful. And look, I'll finish on this. I don't ever want to hear this fearsome foursome talk again. I said this after the post game. I'm saying it again. Baby fearsome foursome 2.0, the whatever associated with that legendary group. This current group ain't that. I don't ever want to hear that again from them. I mean, to mentally quit when things aren't going well, that original fearsome foursome would have never done anything like that. And I hope he learns. I hope he matures, and this defense as a whole. But damn, I think that's a sign of immaturity for them to be that confident, saying, oh, they weren't laying down. What are we talking about? The NFC Championship.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of it is him just speaking for himself, because I don't know if he can read the minds of all his teammates, that they were breaking down and giving up. Maybe that's what was going on in his head. But there's nothing wrong with coming into a game cocky, confident, but you think it's going to be a dogfight to the last snap. You got to know that going in. So yeah, there's some strange things going on here. I don't quite get it. There's a few aspects of this that are just really weird.
Yeah, and that's one. And look, again, we all appreciate Jared Verse's transparency, his honesty on it, as we like to hear players be real. But damn, I could have gone without knowing all that.
Yeah, right,
Honestly,
right.
I could have gone without knowing any one of those thoughts from Jared. And some of that stuff has got to be kept in house, man. So to go on a famous sports podcast, primarily football one, and look at Rams fans tore him. I didn't enjoy it. Other fan bases were ripping his ass, rightfully so. And you got to deal with it. And he didn't play well majority of the end of the season. Neither did that defense. And we'll see what happens in 2026. There's a lot to prove with this young defense, and we'll see if veterans get it to help that cause, Mark, which I think it should be addressed. But moving on to another young player who may be having maturity concerns, Puka Nacua, everyone. Seems like every other week there's some clip going viral for things he's saying or a video going around of him. And I want to preface this by saying this, Mark. He's a young dude. We've all been young guys. enjoying ourselves. I'm not even talking about the video of him being buzzed or drunk outside of San Fran for Super Bowl week. Whatever. We've all partied. We've all been a little tipsy. We've all had friends that have, made sure we were quote unquote in line. I ain't tripping about that. And there's some people that are. I'm not talking about that. But dating back to the Aiden Ross shit, right? Trying to get him in the building. Sean McVay being pissed about that. Them still recording together. Puka Nacua doing the whatever, that Jewish handshake gesture that pissed a lot of people off. He had to put out a statement before the Thursday night game. Then before that, going live in the locker room where players, his teammates were like, yo, dude, what are you doing? And Puka being like, oh, don't worry about it, bro. Your butt cheeks aren't going to be shown, and still staying live. That, then you move on to the Sam Darnold tweet where Ernest Jones is like, yo, your goofy ass is at home, where that team just won a Super Bowl. You got that. You got him with the Sidney Sweeney stuff. That doesn't bother me too much. See him on every type of podcast you could think of and every type of football show. Some stuff where, look at, crapping on Rams fans as Fred Warner, were talking about the Australia game, saying, Puka saying, oh, thank God that game's away. There's not a lot of Rams home games. He's like, that's better for us. This is just the dude. You just got to zip it sometimes, brother. I think he needs a social media manager or something, Mark, because I feel like we're seeing too much Puka, and the man hasn't even gotten paid yet. And I feel like it'll get a lot worse once he's a millionaire, right? And make your money. We've all been young. We've all been a little foolish and all that. But I think it's a little immaturity. It's like, yo, brother, we don't need to see you everywhere all the time. And we don't need to hear your thoughts everywhere all the time, right? I don't know.
Yeah, the social media stuff, I mean, you can't take it away from them, but, I think a lot of these guys would be wiser to avoid it. And, hey, let me ask you a question. I saw the what he tweeted about Darnold, and the story I heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, was that there was a play where a Patriot was trying to help him up, and Darnold waved him off and waited for a Seahawk to help him up. And that's what he posted, the laughing emoji and Sam Darnold. And it was not that he was ridiculing Darnold. He was just kind of like going, oh, it's Sam Darnold. Check that out. Is that the story you heard, or is that?
I heard people arguing that, Mark, but, the internet. People,
still no excuse, right?
Yeah, I mean, people find the time of when he tweeted that. They figured out the time of when that play went down, and it doesn't match up at all.
Oh, really? Okay.
People that did a deep dive to figure out if those things aligned. And look, I'm sure that was in tandem when he was leaving that video that got posted of him leaving Buzz, getting escorted into a van to go home, go to the hotel, whatever. So I'm sure maybe a drunken tweet that probably shouldn't have went out. So be it. Whatever. Those are what I've heard. But I mean, Mark, we're just seeing too much of Puka. Yeah. We don't need to see you on every podcast. We don't need to see you on every little thing. Of course, make money, all that. But I think he needs a serious social media manager, a legit manager to steer him into things and steer him out of things. I think that's going to be needed, man.
Yeah, and the Rams should be able to help him with that. I mean, they got we haven't talked about Stan Kroenke and and everything he owns and how much money he has yet, but I think they could assign an assistant to him to make sure he just avoids this crap.
Yeah, and look, let's not forget about the tweets after the game talking about, see, am I wrong about the refs? As in the Aiden Ross stream, he was like, yeah, refs just do shit to be on TV. So it's just like, he's a young dude. He has a baby. All the TMZ headlines put him in a light that he doesn't care about his baby mama and the baby, and he is immature. He's just in the news way too much over this last year. For good, for bad. And you know what also sucks too? And I'll end on this, Mark, before, again, we're not TMZ either, but it involves our Rams players. There's a lot of NFL fans who do not like Puka Nacua now.
Yeah.
after all this. Outside of the
I
Rams
understand it.
world and
Yeah.
outside of football players individually, there are tons, and I mean tons of fan bases who do not like Puka Nacua. I see it on Twitter X. I see it on Instagram. Everyone's like, yeah, screw that guy. F that guy. The next Antonio Brown, just watch. It's going to get worse. Yada, yada, yada. And that's a shame. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's this
He's a
AB or diva
he's
wide
a
receiver. I think he's a young guy who has a very outgoing personality, who's famous out of nowhere, right? 5th round pick who exploded. And I think he just needs to be steered in the right place. Social media manager, career manager, something. And I think that better happen sooner than later, because once he gets paid a gazillion $1 million, which the Rams will, right? Let's be honest about it. Is it going to get worse? Maybe. Is it likely? Probably, but hopefully not. Hopefully he will mature and someone will be there to guide him out of stuff to do and stuff not to do. But it is a shame a
yeah.
lot of the Rams fans have to deal with other fan bases and being like, yeah, F that Puka Nacua guy. Sucks.
Yeah, he's just he's a knucklehead. He's just a knucklehead.
Yeah.
But, let me ask you this. You talk about him getting paid, and, this certainly isn't hurting his case for his next contract. It's not helping. Maybe it is in some respects. He's well known. But is he the type of free agent, if he were not a Ram, that the Rams would go after? I would say no. He's not the type of player that the Rams would bring in, as good as he is. Something to think about.
I mean, that's the truth. Like, this is very, what's very un-McVay Ram-like, right?
Right.
Player being loud, player tweeting, doing all that. And look, Sean McVay's bailed him out multiple times this year in press conferences, acting like he doesn't know things. Give me an effort break, everyone. You know, I think the main man in Rams leadership outside of the Kroenke family didn't know all this stuff was going on. So I think to that point, you're right. If he was not a Ram, the Rams would identify him as a guy that would fit into the culture based on this? Probably not.
Yeah,
but,
he does have a little bit of Jalen Ramsey in him, though.
Which is
some
fine with me.
similarities.
I like that. But Ramsey wasn't doing dummy things on the internet.
Right.
Even with his Jacksonville days, he wasn't. He was maybe inferring things to get paid, which, okay, a lot of players do that. It's fine. But we'll see what happens, everyone. This Rams team is incredibly young, incredibly talented, has incredible potential. Puka's already, I think, hitting that potential fully as it is right now. And him, Verse, Byron, the whole D-line, the secondary who has been here, and we'll see how much that changes. The young O-lineman. I mean, Matthew Stafford said this too, Mark, everyone, as he appears on CRXM doing a show every once in a while. I mean, he says, we have a young group in some spots, and watching these guys mature and come into their own has been really fun and rewarding, as well for me, talking about that group. And he says, I think there's definitely more room for growth and maturity from all our team, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity to get back out there next year with a group that hopefully is somewhat similar to what we had this past year and see where it takes us. So Matthews being the captain, right? Not throwing anyone under the bus, but him even mentioning maturity and growth, I think, is not just on the field, but for outside the field. All out to what Verse has said this past week. All out to the Puka Nacua, dummy stuff we've seen this last year as well. And I think they will learn. I think Matthew Stafford and Rams leadership can steer this group, and we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, there's certainly reason for hope. Just gotta fill some holes, and these younger players going to be one more season of experience and maturity. Can only get better, you'd hope.
Yep, and look you want to be an LA superstar and get paid a gazillion, jillion $1 million, then ball out and don't do dumb things and don't say dumb things or say things that could hurt your future pay, a la we mentally quit in the NFC Championship game when things didn't go our way. Yeah, let's not do any of those things or say that again, please. I don't need to know those things. Neither does Mark and neither does the fan base. So I expect them to be better, and they will, I believe. Right, Mark?
Yeah, it's free agency is going to be so much fun. We'll talk about that more another day. But I think the Rams are going to make a splash, and whoever they bring on, maybe some guys with some experience, some maturity, and leadership on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's what they need.
Yeah, I think that's definitely needed. Offensive, everything. Bring in some guys that could steer this group to show them, hey, your LA career started out amazing. This isn't how it goes for everyone else in the NFL. It's a hard fought journey year in and year out. Let's give you some perspective to realize the opportunity you have in front of you. Lock in, let's go. And I think that would be great. And we'll talk about all that as the weeks go on, Mark, for sure. But a last little tidbit in Rams universe news. Stan Kroenke, the owner of the LA Rams, owner of pretty much every professional team in the state of Colorado outside the Denver Broncos, which is insane. Also owner of Arsenal out there in England of the Premier League. Also owner of now the most private land in the United States. As what did he buy recently, Mark?
He bought a 937,000 acres of cattle ranch in New Mexico.
Yeah. So, I mean, after that purchase, again, everyone, he is now the largest private land owner in the United States. I mean, that is Illuminati level insanity of power. Now, I say that kiddingly, but does some form of the Illuminati secret societies exist in real life? Yes, that's a different subject for another day, everyone. But damn, that is how insanely baller Kroenke is in the Kroenke family. So, what does that mean for Rams? Not much. Again, different state and all that, but it just shows you the amount of resources this man can pull. And real quick, in case you're like, what team's in Colorado, Ian? Denver Nuggets world champion, Colorado Avalanche, the NHL team world champion. You have the MLS team I can't think of right now. You have the lacrosse team. You have the video game competition teams. You have pretty much every other sports team outside of the Broncos, which he's married into that family, by the way, who own the Broncos now. So Kroenke, baller. This helps out even more cash flow coming in, I assume, in years to come with, hey, free agents, trades, because let's not forget, everyone, while all NFL owners are rich as shit, are wealthy as hell, and have money, generational money for years and years and years flowing into their bank accounts. Not every owner is on the same tier as Kroenke, because when you sign somebody, when you trade for somebody, a lot of that has to come to fruition by how much the owner has ready to go. These millions of dollars. Can he put that money in escrow? Does he have that 10 million, 20 million, 30 million ready to go? Or it's one of those situations where a lot of owners say, hey, we can't make that move right now because I don't have the physical cash in the bank account to drop it on 10 different guys. Kroenke will never be a problem. And I'm sure whatever money he's going to be making with all these land acquisitions in New Mexico, whatever he's going to do near the Anaheim Angel Stadium out here in Southern California, doing that, when the Angels go up for sale, does he buy them? Wouldn't shock me. And whatever else he owns on planet Earth, it helps the Rams cause because we'll never have to worry about resources, money for free agents, money for trades, money for facilities. And him buying all this land is just another example of we are lucky that this man is rich as hell.
Yeah, and he has to carry a lot of weight with the other owners as well.
Yeah.
And we have probably the best stadium, if not the world, in the United States.
Yeah. And shout out to SoFi Stadium, man, hosting some World Cup games later this year. We'll be hosting Olympic stuff, hosting the Super Bowl again this year, or a calendar year from now, I should say. And it's just incredible that this family is this insanely rich and wealthy. And hopefully the facility they build out there in the valley, the new Rams practice/training facilities are A++++, as the Rams have gotten a lot of shit for stuff like that. Hopefully whatever money's made from these cattle ranches will supplement that to be very, very nice for players, for visiting fans. I'm sure they'll have plenty of fun stuff to do for training camps or any other visits, tours, etc. But it's just another example that, hey, this man here, Kroenke, has got all the ammo, all the wealth to be able to supplement another world championship and hopefully one here in LA. Right, Mark?
Yeah, he's man, brought the team back to LA. I'm in the Stan Kroenke camp just for that alone.
Yeah, and sorry St. Louis fans are mad about that. I think he paid the city a lot of money of a sorry payment, basically. Whatever that settlement was, I know it was quite a bit amount of millions on that. And I get it. If you're sour towards him for that, totally understand it. Hey, look at I'm an LA native. My family were LA Rams fans dating back to the 60s and to present. So, we have a different perspective. So does Mark being a SoCal LA guy as well. So I get it. If you're St. Louis guys, you're like, screw that guy. If you're Arsenal people saying screw him for how his son has ran that Premier League team, get it. But dude's a winner for American sports. There's not even a debate on that. And hopefully we get some more Lombardi trophies that he could hoist in the near future, right, Mark?
Absolutely. One more very soon, I think.
Very, very soon. Another one in LA. That'd be, God, what a dream that would be. As a city, would be more Rams fans than it already has been, as the Rams fan base is growing, right? Superstars like Puka, superstars or star players like Jared, Stafford, other up-and-coming guys that are leading the charge. Just, hey, get a little more mature, everyone. Make better
decisions. And that makes it a little more frustrating too. Is that I think Puka has been a big part of growing this fan base. I went on a walk Super Bowl Sunday. No, actually, it was the day of the NFC Championship game. I went for a little walk in the North San Diego County neighborhood I live in, and two kids in their garage with Puka jerseys on. And hey, Puka's got to think about that.
Yeah, and it's, hey, is Kroenke with all that money? You're gonna have to convince him to be like, hey, we're gonna give Puka $30 million a year, whatever that crazy number is gonna be soon. Jeez Louise. So we'll see what happens. They could sign him this offseason. They could wait. Maybe they have a sit-down conversation of like, hey, this has got to happen. This has got to happen before we give you that big bag of money. And at least we know Kroenke's got it, and that won't be an issue. I think that's the positive. And I don't think it'll take much convincing for Kroenke to drop that cash. And we'll see what happens, everyone. We got tons of cap space. We have tons of physical cash from Kroenke. And we'll see what happens with the defense, who gets brought in to elevate that group and bring some maturity and leadership, who gets brought in on offense, maybe to be a third wide receiver, a second tight end, a third tight end, et cetera, et cetera. Do they bring in other O-linemen we can't think of to be the starting right tackle? I mean, there's tons of stuff that's going to happen in the next month or so. And me and Mark, we'll cover all that on this channel. Of course, you'll see Farboat. Of course, you'll see Scott Richmond. Of course, you'll see other guests that we'll collaborate with. Shout out to all the Rams content creators cranking out the goods at this time of year. And we'll have plenty here as well, right, Mark?
Absolutely. We got a lot of stuff planned between now and the draft and after the draft, working on some historical content. A lot of good stuff coming down the pipe.
Yes, we will. And hey, if you enjoy our content, everyone, you enjoyed this episode as well, like the video, share our channel, share the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. And importantly, don't forget to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss mock drafts. You don't miss breaking news with free agency signings, trades, uniform news. I don't know. I'm looking forward to that. Anything else going on in the Rams universe, you will not miss it if you have that notification bell on here on the Rams Up Podcast Network. But that'll do it, everyone. Me and Mark, we'll get together soon once again, either the end of this week, the beginning of next week, and we'll start breaking down who should be back, who should not, free agents, targets, trades, et cetera, et cetera. Don't miss out. And man, the road to the Super Bowl back in LA starts now. I'm excited. Mark's excited. And I know you are all excited as well. Right, Mark?
Absolutely. This 2025 season and the end of the year debacle's behind us. Let's just start looking forward to a potential Super Bowl title at SoFi. That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about, baby. And no matter where you are, rep your blue and gold, rep it proud, rep it loud, and always throw up the horns. Go Rams, baby.